Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And oh boy.
Oh, I'm salty.
This is huge. This is the White House finding out that Google did in fact censor YouTube channels under the Biden administration.
It's only a Trump administration. It's only now that this is happening, even though that the FCC never contacted them and told them not to carry Jimmy Kimmel. But this is now because it's us. But never mind the fact that it was under Biden, too.
Yeah, so...
Or first, or at all.
Anybody who was paying attention would know that there definitely was censorship going on social media back in the early 2020s. There are certain things you were not allowed to talk about if people at those companies thought your political allegiance was to the other side. They would do things, I believe, to dampen or deboost your channel. We had a lot of people get thrown off of YouTube or Twitter entirely. And now it's coming out that, yeah, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, yeah, we totally censored people. Mark Zuckerberg said that the Biden administration would call Facebook and scream at them if they didn't censor certain accounts. And now it turns out that Google was doing the same thing. Oh, my God.
Oh, shocker. Except, nuh-uh, guys. Nuh-uh. The 400 celebrities and their friends in the media and all that say it was only the Trump administration because of something that never actually apparently happened.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about this because it is a startling contrast to Hollywood freaking out about perceived censorship when there was actual censorship going on social media in the 2020s and probably before. I'd say as early as probably 2018, 2019, and they cheered it on. They loved it. They loved it when conservatives lost their platform.
Yeah, and they're yelling about, oh, it's McCarthyism. We got to stop McCarthyism. I'm like, bitch, you guys were doing it before this. Was it not McCarthyism then? I would argue it's a hell of a lot more McCarthy-esque then than it is now. Because you're just mad because it's on your side.
Exactly. That's just it.
I'm so mad. And I'm like, we've always kind of been moderate. And, we used to lean left. Now we didn't change, but somehow we're labeled moderate and right. And it's like anybody in the middle watching this, anybody with a brain can be like, this is like hypocrisy to the umpteenth power.
Well, the thing is, the middle, I don't think until recently was really paying attention. They just kind of went along with whatever the mainstream media said, whatever they saw on social media.
Well, even now, the mainstream media keeps doubling down with bullshit narratives about Jimmy Kimmel and all this stuff. And that's not, it's because of the FCC guy. But that the Next Star said, I think it was Next Star, one of the two, said, we did make the decision. No one ever contacted us. No one ever said anything to us.
Yeah.
No, guys, like that. No, they've said that wasn't the case.
I talked about in another video that Brendan Carr actually came out and said that no, the FCC didn't put any pressure on Disney. It was Disney basically decided to suspend Jimmy Kimmel because he refused to apologize.
And I think he's still not. Because from what I'm seeing, they're saying he's allowed to say whatever he wants. And if he doesn't apologize, it's absolute shit. Like, dude had a hissy, okay? He was mad, and I talked about this yesterday, because somebody said he was on the Epstein list when he wasn't. And he was mad about it and said that person should apologize. And the person didn't apologize, which is wrong, because he wasn't on the list. And the person should have apologized because what they said was incorrect and really maligning, and they should have said sorry. And he was upset because he goes, I always apologize. Well, bitch, put your money where your mouth is and you better fucking apologize tonight. But I bet you won't. Because you don't want to piss off all your friends. But if you always apologize, it's like you said, then you need to apologize.
Yeah, he's got Newsom on too. That's not going to be divisive.
I know. That's like they're doubling down. But dude, you need to apologize. But you won't. But don't you dare scream about anything ever again. And he'll have a bump in viewership, but eventually it'll all go back to where it was because no one cares about late night.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think they're going to let him, and I talked about it in the other video. We'll talk about YouTube here, but basically I think they're going to let him write out his contract, and then he'll probably jump ship and go to podcasting or something. He can say whatever he wants.
He better apologize. If he apologizes, okay. I still think it's wrong what he said, but at least he apologized. If he doesn't apologize,
it'll be the quasi apology, but not quite where it's like, well, I'm sorry people misunderstood my clearly stated opinion.
Right. Which was, deliberately misleading.
It was deliberately misleading. I'm sorry you misunderstood my misleading thing. So there is a lot of gaslighting going on here. And we're going to talk about Google. And we just did a video the other day where all these creators, and this isn't even a political thing, all these creators have come out in the last month and said our traffic is tanking, our traffic is dying. Google changed something, YouTube changed something, and they're denying it. And also a lot of website owners were saying, hey, Google denied that the AI was causing a traffic decline. And they said, oh, it's just changing user behavior. Same with YouTube. Oh, they just don't like your content anymore. That's why they're not seeing it.
Changing user behavior means that they're making the behavior change with their stuff. They're trying to make more money.
And it will come out in the wash. I guarantee you, it might be a year or two from now. It will come out that Google was manipulating the internet with AI with the intention of making more money for themselves, just like it came out that everybody thought it was crazy. Because people said, hey, my channel is being deboosted, or I got kicked off of YouTube for this or for that. Oh, that's crazy. You know, they're apolitical. You're just crazy. Another right-wing conspiracy theory that they're banning, political channels or political leaning channels or deboosting them or whatever.
No, it's political leaning channels as long as it wasn't the side that was opposite who was in charge.
Yeah, and this is why you can get people like, Destiny and Hassan who can call for, death against people on these platforms, and there's no repercussions. But if you're like, hey, yeah, I'm not real sure about that vaccine, well, then you get booted from YouTube.
Well, so wasn't there a news organization on Twitter before Must Bought It that they got kicked off for a while because they were pointing out that women were having, adverse reactions for female problems to the vaccine. I think they got kicked off temporarily.
I think they did, yeah, and it turned out that actually is true, and you can testify.
Can't vouch. Anyway.
And people tried to argue with you about that, but we'll talk about this.
Premenopausal cow.
Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So go out to news.clownfishtv.com, and this is kind of our fallback if things go south with YouTube, is that you can always check this to see what videos we're posting. And if push comes to shove, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but if push comes to shove, we can also post our videos directly over on Substack as well. So news.clownfishtv.com. And I want to remind people, you want to check into alternative platforms. Did I tell you, because we started mirroring on Odyssey a week or two ago, we're front paged on Odyssey. So you go to Odyssey, we're looking on the front page. So that's pretty cool.
Yay!
But the reason that Odyssey and Rumble kind of blew up when they did, and I don't think Odyssey's as big as it was a couple of years ago, but a lot of people that were wrongfully kicked off of YouTube wound up going to other platforms. And, now it seems like they're like, yeah, we like money. We'll just let everybody, come back on the platform here. But this is coming from the New York Post. Google to reinstate YouTube accounts banned for repeated violations of COVID-19 content. It's more than that. They said that there were several people that were banned for posting then controversial content related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Asking questions
about it. And they said it was because of the Biden White House. They said those channels once flagged for repeated violations of COVID-19 and election integrity policies adhered to by Google will now no longer be in effect.
So if you question the election,
yes.
If you question all the weird mail-in ballots that magically appeared and stuff, if you question the election or if you question the vaccine, you immediately got your channels to, by the order of the Biden administration, according to this.
Yeah. Now I know they were really weird. And I think I was telling people in one of the live streams about this, that they were super weird when the pandemic started. You were not even allowed to mention COVID by name. No. You're not allowed to acknowledge its existence. You certainly were not allowed to speculate as to what its origins were or where it came from. And even though it was literally the world ground to a halt and you were not allowed to talk about it. I mean, you want to talk about Voldemorting. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. But Jim Jordan has it here. Disclosed TV has it. Let's see. Just in, YouTube admits to having censored people during the COVID pandemic for political reasons. Offers terminated creators the opportunity to rejoin the platform. Why would you trust them? Why would you trust them?
People are going to come back because it just proves that these people are screaming because Jimmy Kimmel said something stupid and got in trouble for it, mostly because they were probably afraid they were going to get sued. Then you have, he was taken off the air because of the affiliate carriers, not because, anybody was threatened at all. And then the media runs with its threats and stuff, and that's all. It's bad, guys. It's McCarthyism. We got to stop the government from silencing people, even though what he said was not government related.
Yeah.
Really, it was more like making fun of Trump and stuff, and MAGA, because everything that isn't far left is MAGA at this point, like the new Nazi, as far as like no one cares for terminology, but. They're like all worried about this, but it's already come to pass. But that doesn't matter because it wasn't their side. So we already know Google, deliberately took people off because the Biden administration told them to. We know that Facebook's already admitted to it. Twitter has admitted to it, all because of political shit from Biden's administration. That's okay. That's not McCarthyism. But oh my God, you took Jimmy Kimmel off the air for saying something really, really shitty. Oh, they're trying to silence us. Free speech matters, guys. Free speech always fucking mattered, asshats. It always did. You only care about it now because you think it's going to impact you. But you were completely fine when it impacted everybody else that you didn't agree with. The whole lot of those 400 celebrities can sit and fucking spin, honestly. The arrogance and I'm important and I say. Don't fucking care what you say. I think you just signed over your names to things that everybody's going to be like, oh, don't want to have anything to do with them now. Because you're like, oh, we want free speech. No, you don't. You want your speech.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's like, crime and they were cheering it on. I know there were a lot of celebrities that were kind of like, well, the alt-right Nazis are on these platforms. They need to be deplatformed. And, where was Pedro Pascal when Gina Carano got fired? Like he didn't voice, I don't think publicly.
No, but he did for Kimmel.
Yeah, he did for Kimmel. He's like standing all of his co-stars were standing up for Gina Carano, and they were supposed to be good friends. And he might have privately said, "Hey, I'm sorry this happened," whatever, but he wasn't sticking his neck out for it at all. Was
people are getting tired of Pascal, which is great, but good by me, and I'm happy to hear it. But it was something else that's funny to me is the fact that even saying this gets you politically maligned because a rational person, doesn't matter which side you're on. Most people in the middle can see that it's unfair, and you can see that there's a double standard, and you can see that you're censoring people for things that weren't right, and then you're turning around and now it matters when it's the other side. Anybody with half a brain can see this just by the evidence.
So let's look at.
Well, I was going to say, but of course they're going to automatically label anybody who questions it as MAGA, even though I'm not even MAGA. I'm just somebody with a brain.
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's what I used to think, and I talked about that today. I used to think that, if we just, kind of keep our heads down and don't, get too involved in whatever, they'll just leave us alone. I'm like, no, once they run out of the more extreme targets, they're going to turn an eye to whoever doesn't toe the line.
What they do is anybody who doesn't, literally anybody who doesn't agree with what we're saying is MAGA. And they're trying to make that out like it's the new Nazi. But meanwhile, they're the ones legitimately acting like fascist Nazis half the time. Yeah. And then they're trying to tell everybody else, they're trying to bully. They're doing their usual bully, gaslighting bullshit where they're trying to tell middle America that they're terrible people if they don't side with them. Well, if you want free speech, you have to side with us. Thing is, you didn't side with people. You wanted free speech. You should have sided with people that, you might have disagreed with, but they were being censored. But you didn't because you liked the fact that they were being punished. So, you don't get to scream MAGA bullshit now when it's coming for you.
Yeah. And it's really, it's funny because they're not saying this is what they said, right? About, the deplatforming of conservatives, and they're only saying, oh, COVID and election denying or whatever. But really people are like, no, I got deplatformed for way tamer stuff. And I'm telling you, even if you weren't, specifically deplatformed, if your channel leaned conservative, it would absolutely get deboosted by the algorithm. And you didn't
even have to lean conservative. We never changed. But because the anything right of far left is considered MAGA, pretty much 2/3 of everything or more, 3/4 would be considered, on the right now.
I think there was a corporate element and a Hollywood element to it too, because remember, this is about the same time that stupid was it Rewriting Ripley or whatever popped up and tried to say that channels like ours were like the gateway to the alt-right, and it all starts.
Even though we weren't even Republican.
We weren't even Republicans, and started with Star Wars hate and video game Gamergate shit, and then they tried tying everybody to like Steve Bannon and all these and it's like, So they were trying to make this case, and then we had that those other idiotic websites out there that were basically tracking what they thought people's political persuasion was. I guarantee you, they were feeding that shit to somebody who was probably working at Google or YouTube at the time.
No, it was Transparency Tube. But I remember I looked at it at the time, and they were saying about you had to be reviewed by their people, but their people we were looking for people to hire to do these reviews or to bring in from Twitter. So they were deliberately coming in from, clearly, far left Twitter, and they were the ones deciding what you were. So if you said anything out of line with, what they believed, you just pointed out the obvious. You said, hey, the emperor's not wearing clothes. There's a giant elephant sitting right there in the room. Yeah. You were automatically labeled as, anti-woke. All right.
Yeah. And I think it was partially political, but I think it was also a Hollywood thing. I think Hollywood was very threatened by YouTube. And I think the reason that they're allowing people back on the platform now that are more conservative is they had competition from Rumble and Odyssey and other platforms, and they want to stamp them down.
Didn't they have a group too that was going around deciding whether or not your content was okay? If you were too far right, you couldn't have your content on your website. And they were also deciding who got, were telling advertisers, whether which way you leaned to advertise. Wasn't there something going on with that we talked about before?
Were we talking about the websites, or were we talking about on YouTube?
Websites.
Yeah, they're so we can talk about that because we own multiple websites, and they're supported by advertising. We're in different ad networks, and one of the websites in one of the networks, we had to watch it around 2020, 2021. I don't think they're around anymore, but they had like a media bias nonprofit that they brought in to basically audit your website to make sure your content didn't offend anyone.
You were okay if you were biased to the left, but if you're biased to the right, you're fucked, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And they could kick you out of the network. And they would actually demonetize pages that made any mention of COVID or elections.
We never had any problem.
No, but
they were scanning it, but we never had problems.
It was very dystopian that they were going through. And again, very McCarthy-esque that they're going through your website that you paid to host. And in our case, we host overseas. And they were like, oh, you can't say this on your website or we're going to demonetize it.
Back to YouTube, you had people policing YouTube that if they thought you said something they didn't like, they were going to your advertisers and trying to get them pulled, trying to get people fired at work, that kind of stuff. But then they're mad because, oh my gosh, you said I shouldn't say killing people is okay.
Yeah, they're mad that they're getting fired for cheering on death when before all you had to do was say, hey, I got some concerns about this vaccine. I don't know if I'm going to take it. That was enough to get you fired.
Basically, they're mad because they set the rules and now the rules, are going to apply to them too. And that's not right. That should only apply to everybody else but them.
So here's what was said. All right, so this is in the document here. The company terminated channels for repeatedly violating its community guidelines on election integrity content through 2023 and COVID-19
election denier.
And COVID-19 content through 2024. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think it was any conservative leaning channel they were deboosting them to. Today, YouTube's community guidelines allow for a wider range of content regarding COVID-19 and election integrity, reflecting the company's commitment to free expression. YouTube will provide an opportunity for all creators to rejoin the platform if the company terminated their channels for repeated violations of COVID and election integrity policies that are no longer in effect. Would you want to go back? I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm just like, it's no longer in effect because it was never valid to begin with.
YouTube values conservative voices on its platform and recognizes that these creators have extensive reach and play an important role in civic discourse. You answered
your question. Extensive reach. So the ones you kept on there with the other narrative and everybody in the middle starting to realize they're full of shit, and that's why they're watching Fox News and stuff. Yeah. You mean they don't pay out as much? You don't make as much money on them?
That's exactly it.
That's what that translates to, basically.
They have the demographic. They have the coveted demographic. Most conservatives, because you've got people who are, let's say capitalists, working folk who have disposable income and will buy products. Therefore, advertisers would like to reach them because it's more appealing to reach say a guy who's making $150,000 a year and might actually buy that Lexus than it is to be like, oh yeah, let's get some broke ass activist in Portland living under a bridge.
Let's go after the communists. Wow,
go after the communists, the socialists who hate money. Yeah, right. And hate capitalism. Yeah. And will turn on you in a dime too. They'll turn on you and it's like, well, I'm going to boycott this car I can't afford. I'm like, yeah, okay. The company recognizes these creators are among those shaping today's online consumption, landing must-watch interviews, giving viewers the chance. Okay, landing must-watch interviews. Remember when Joe Rogan had Trump on and they made it as hard as possible to find that?
It's only being changed now because Trump won it. If this had been Harris winning, it would be doubled down. So we're going to let everybody have free speech now because, Biden's not in office to tell us we can't. That's
exactly.
And we want them to have that reach and come back because we know in retrospect we make a shit ton more money on them.
Yep. So according to Jim Jordan, Google admitted the following also. The Biden administration pressured Google to censor Americans and remove content that did not violate YouTube policies.
Oh, whoa.
The Biden administration.
No, it's just Trump. But it's just Trump, and he's threatening the FCC, and it's just his administration that did it. No, bitch.
The Biden administration censorship pressure was unacceptable and wrong. Public debate should never come at the expense of relying on authorities.
Yeah.
Or expense of relying on authorities. The company will never use third-party fact checkers. That was Facebook
implies
too.
They were, yes.
Europe's censorship laws target American companies and threaten American speech, including the removal of lawful content.
Yeah, that's because they're getting hit with that because like over in the UK and stuff, they're being ridiculous. It's insane. I am so glad. No offense to anybody in the UK, but I'm really glad I don't live there.
I think there's financial pressure shoot. Now they've got a hearing on October 8th with Twitch, Discord, Steam.
Oh, Discord's going to be interesting.
And
Steam too.
And I think that is going to be really interesting to see what happens because I think they're going after Antifa and they're going after any discussion on those platforms. But also I think it's going to come out. I think it's going to come out, especially in the case of Twitch and Discord, that conservatives were absolutely being silenced there too.
Well, here's the thing. There's something that I've always noticed. If someone is, trying to silence, if you were above reproach and you didn't do anything wrong and you don't care, I mean, you don't need to have the people silenced because you didn't do anything wrong. You don't silence people. It's when you're trying to hide what you've done or what you've been doing and you don't want people to figure it out and talk about it and get an audience that will question you, that you silence people. So it makes things that people were having tinfoil hat theories about seem a lot more likely, like, the weird election results when there seemed to be more voters that voted than were registered and things like that. You weren't allowed to talk about it because, you could be demonetized. We have to silence you. You don't silence people unless you're trying to hide something.
Yeah. And they were trying to manipulate the general public. I mean, think about just how, look, the world's pretty damn weird right now, but I'm thinking about how dystopian the pandemic actually was. It wasn't just the fact that we were dealing with this, unknown health threat, but also we're dealing with massive government overreach. I mean, I swear to God, in the middle of the pandemic, I felt like we were living in Russia or something. It was crazy. It was like you weren't allowed.
People were dying alone, and you weren't allowed to do anything. You weren't allowed to
couldn't get food. You couldn't get toilet paper.
Yeah, you couldn't say anything about it. You weren't allowed to. If you said anything about it, no. Those are peaceful protests.
Oh, peaceful protests. I'm sorry, that's misinformation.
Those are peaceful protests.
Okay.
But when anybody else does it, it's considered, an insurrection or, it's riots or it's inappropriate behavior. But when they do it, that's just a peaceful protest.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Never mind, people died, businesses got burned. It was peaceful protests.
Mostly peaceful protests. So here we have another bit here. Senior Biden administration officials, including White House officials, conducted repeated and sustained outreach to Alphabet and pressured the company regarding certain user-generated content related to COVID-19 pandemic, to the pandemic that did not violate its policies. I don't think it stopped there. I think it went further than that. And I'm telling you right now, Google is denying they're using AI. They're denying that they broke the algorithm. I think they're full of horse shit. I think they know exactly what they did, why they did it, and they're lying to people now.
What makes me mad is, you weren't allowed to question anything, and then to control the narrative. And they're trying to do that shit again, like with the Kimmel thing, all the media lockstep trying to push this FCC bullshit that wasn't even true, apparently, and stuff. And you weren't allowed to say anything that was against the narrative because they were afraid you wouldn't be good little sheep and do what they wanted. And the thing is that it turns out later that a lot of people either died or have resulting, after like long COVID, for different things from the vaccine, because they, were basically misled by the ones you were allowed to listen to. And it's a bunch of bullshit.
We know, and I mentioned it in the live stream too. Now, normally that would have gotten me yanked off the air, but we know several people who have had negative side effects from the vaccine, and we know one person in particular that died from the vaccine. So, like, you weren't allowed to talk about that at all. You weren't even allowed to be like, hey, yeah, this thing's kind of experimental. And then if you were even like, we don't think it's right that, regardless of how you feel about the vaccine, we don't think it's right that somebody should be forced to inject themselves with it, or they're going to lose their jobs. And I know two people. One of them is a really good friend of mine who has heart issues now because he was basically forced to take it. And we had another former employee of ours who had a blood clot from it because, again, forced to take it for the job. So, like, we know people that had negative side effects, but you weren't allowed to even talk about anecdotally because everything was hunky-dory. And now that whole thing, like, Jesse, they don't even talk about the COVID vaccine anymore. Like, nobody talks about it.
They're still trying to promote it. Like, now it's available for babies. I'm like, hell no.
I know, right? Have you had your 43rd vaccine?
At the end of the day, let's back to the point. Google lied and said they weren't doing this.
Yes.
Now they're admitting it. So, of course, the AI is totally not ruining everything, bullshit. And we're not going to believe you anyway because we know you lie.
Yeah.
But what I'm super angry about, and I'm just like livid about it, is this, hypocritical bullshit where the celebrities are going, it's McCarthyism. Freedom of speech is McCarthyism. I'm like, no. What was McCarthyism was the last several years. Like when they went after Zach Levi, they went after, a bunch of different people because, they a lot of men, like they had a lot of male celebrities anonymously saying that they weren't even getting hired anymore because they were white men.
Yeah, you
and
were
stuff.
Allowed,
and
that's
and
not
there was
true.
All kinds of shit going down. That was McCarthyism. You were witch hunting anybody who didn't have the right opinion. You're making sure they got like Gina Carano and stuff, making sure, that they got fired. And then you said nothing about free speech then. But when it's you and you're afraid it's one of yours and you're afraid this could come for you, now you're going on about McCarthyism. But you were completely fine with it when it was legitimately happening.
Well, that was like the guitar player for Mumford and Sons. I remember he got booted for saying that he thought Antifa was a terrorist group. Well, now it's designated a terrorist group. So does he get to join the band again or what?
Does he get to sue? I mean, because this is what it is. Like you guys did it for years. And now that it might impact you, you're all screaming about it. You're all signing letters. You're going to Civil Liberties Union. Why weren't you at the Civil Liberties Union when people were being, silenced because they might have had a different political opinion? You said nothing then.
This is such bullshit. We, the people, must never accept government threats to our freedom of speech.
They shouldn't have done either.
Efforts by leaders to pressure artists, journalists, and companies with retaliation for their speech strike at the heart of what it means to live in a free country and also
yes, you're so right. That is completely true. Except your buddy Biden already did it to a bunch of other people. And now you're mad because and then the FCC didn't even threaten.
No.
Reportedly, even by the people who did ban or would preempt, Kimmel said that they never were threatened by the FCC. No. But y'all running with that narrative, and that isn't even the truth. And then you have double standards. You have all these people on camera saying one thing a few years ago that's completely right to censor people. It's completely right for them to get punished, kicked off and stuff because you do freedom of speech isn't freedom of consequence. And you have the exact same people saying, well, you're protected from that, and that's bullshit. That shouldn't happen. You were the ones pushing for it.
The one takeaway I have from the last couple of years is basically the truth depends on if you've got your red goggles or your blue goggles on.
Why? Right? I'm personally in the middle, and my thing is what I've learned the last few years is fuck you to those people.
Go. All right, are we gonna wrap this up?
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.